Hello and welcome back to the Argyle CFO Summit, Lessons Learned in 2022. My name is Michael with Argyle, and a couple of notes before I turn things over to our panel moderator. First, a quick reminder to stop by our sponsors' virtual booths at any time during today's event and for the following week. Our partners are committed to providing you with valuable content and a great overall experience. At any time during today's event, you can visit their virtual booths from the main agenda page, which include complimentary materials, information, and meet and greet opportunities. Now, to ask questions throughout the session, simply type into the Q&A chat and we will address your questions at the end of the session. And now, without further delay, I would like to introduce our moderator, Rishi Poddar, Chief Financial Officer with K4 Mobility. We're excited to have Rishi and our panelists with us for a panel discussion titled The 2023 CFO, Strategizing and Preparing for a New Year of the Unknown. Rishi, thank you so much for being here today. Welcome, and over to you.
Thank you, Michael. And thank you everyone at Argyle for giving me the opportunity to moderate this session. 2023, who knows what's going to happen, but as finance leaders, we all still have to plan for it and try to understand the best way we can look at all the uncertainties that may happen in the next year. So this session is all about that. I have a good set of folks over here. I'll introduce all of them to you. First of all, we have Todd Ford, who is the President and CFO Emeritus of Coupa. Second, we have Denise Johnson, who is the Chief Operating Officer of Stratify. And the third, we have Alonso Ramos, who is the Chief Financial Officer of Infotech Group. So between the three panelists, we have a good set of folks, very well experienced and well known for planning for uncertainties. So we would love to know their thoughts on all the questions that we have prepared. I'll go question by question, and we're going to rotate between the different panelists for their perspective on those questions. So first, not going in any particular alphabetical order, but it just so happens that Alonso is the first one that's going to answer this question. So Alonso, this one's for you. Looking ahead at the new year, what do you think will be top priorities for CFOs and their organizations?
Thank you, Rich. It's a great question, and I think give us a lot of things to think about. The first one that comes to mind is mitigate risk. How are we going to mitigate risk? And it depends on the industry, it depends on how the situation of your particular company is. But speaking a little bit of my situation in the manufacturing area, mitigating risk affects us in a lot of areas. So first of all, the supply chain disruption. We have a situation with inflation right now, a shortage on the labor as well. So it's bring a lot of dynamics that, I mean, we've been working on. We're not waiting for 2023, but we have been working for 2-3 years on these different initiatives in order to mitigate this risk. One of them I need to think is the supply chain, definitely. And it asks for us to do a little more than before. Like in the past, I mean, when you have this kind of disruption, you just start looking for different alternatives, maybe new suppliers, maybe different prices. But right now you're going a little further, and even look at the geographies. I mean, is right now, I mean, with this whole situation in Europe, unfortunately though, many companies are suffering the shortage of supply from Europe, delays, complications. There have been since COVID times problems with the supply chain in from Asia as well, especially from China and surrounding areas. Delays. There's a little more inflationary situation that has been going on for years, and it makes you look for a solution that you haven't tried before, and one of them is to change completely the source. Like it happens to us. I mean, we actually have an investments in Asia that we kind of exit that business and focus in our North America mostly. And now customers from Europe actually are looking for us or looking for the North America to supply because they have their own problems in Europe as well. So it comes down to that. I mean, one of the first solutions here is to think differently and start making a little more bold decisions in terms of changing geographies. Same goes with labor, which if I can comment on another one that is huge right now because of shortage has been going on for a couple of years now. So what do you do? I mean, obviously everybody tries retention, they improve recruitment. That's normally the usual solutions. Now we're thinking a little bit abroad. We have been doing a lot of more automation. Many companies have in the manufacturing area. And it can be applied into your industry, depends, I mean, differently applications of technology, but you can always find ways in which you can rely or depend a little less on the labor itself and eliminate repetitive tasks and we'll look for things in which you can do out. In manufacturing, it's very obvious because you can, with automation, you can replace labor directly. And that eliminates the, well, yeah, it really eliminates the risk of having scarcity on labor, besides the increasing cost of it, that also make it a little more difficult to maintain. So yeah, I mean, just for starters, I would say like think differently and do more bold decisions. That maybe during COVID time we try the usual solutions, but now is really challenging the companies to try some things that never been tried before.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Alonso. I would love to get Todd's perspective on this one.
Yeah, I mean, I really think this is the time for CFOs to lead, right? I always say friction creates motion. And, you know, a lot of times companies will get ahead of themselves. And so I think this is kind of a chance to regroup. I often refer to it as Maslow's hierarchy, right? You know, just like with the, you know, individuals, you need a house and then you can start building upon that. Well, I think from a CFO lens in companies, it's similar to what Alonso was hitting on. It's like, you know, how do I protect my flank first, right? I got to make sure that this company is solid, that I can, so it's a going concern and I can continue to invest. And, you know, I always, whenever I'm talking to, whether it was Wall Street or externally, et cetera, I would always say, you should always ask a CFO if they have an incremental dollar to invest in the business, where do they put it? Because then you'll get a sense, do they really understand the levers and dynamics of the business? And maybe the way to better look at it in today's environment, because it is unknown and there's a lot of changing pieces, is if I had to cut an incremental dollar, how do I do that? And once again, friction creates motion. And I think that's really what's on the minds of all CFOs. I was at an event probably about 6 weeks ago now, and 50 CFOs were there, and every single CFO is top of mind, right? You know, unless you have like some extremely rare case where your company's totally killing it, you know, everyone's doing the scenario planning and, you know, how do I, you know, shore up my base and my foundation so that I can continue to build and keep this company going.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Todd. Denise, over to you.
So I will echo both Alonso's and Todd's comments, and I'd like to add a couple of more things. One of the things that has really changed is the consumer behavior over the last few years, and that is also that behavior is also changing, continues to change with the additional pressures of the inflation, and so I'm in the technology business. So for us, we're seeing we're seeing a change in how we think about all of these uncertainties. So one of the things that Alonso mentioned was risk and being bold, and Todd talked about crisis leading. This is an opportunity to lead. Every time there has been a crisis, there has been an opportunity for innovation. And I'm seeing that there are three things that we are looking at, and we see it in our customers: digitization, automation, and innovation. Those are the three things that are on the top of mind right now to address the uncertainty, because the traditional methods are not enough, as Alonso mentioned.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Denise. It was very, very thoughtful. I'll keep it in mind: digitization, automation, and innovation. Thanks. I'll give you my one quick perspective on this one before we move to the next question. We are a late stage startup, so our top priority is to not run out of money. So that's where we are. So with that, we have a question on the audience, but we'll come back to that question towards the end. What we'll do is we'll move to the second question. This one goes to you, Todd. The question is, how are finance leaders harnessing FP&A budgeting and scenario planning to prepare for Q1? So very short term, the next 3 months.
I think it's all about being proactive versus reactive, and because there's so many different things that can happen, and have a plan A, B, and C, and so that when certain levers are triggered or certain events happen, that you've already been able to plan for it, and not start off the planning session when something negative happens. And I always say you should have a bull case, a base case, and a bear case. And FP&A plays that role. And if you have an operational team, I always say people, process, and systems to drive predictability and scalability, similar to kind of what Denise was hitting on. And the FP&A team is the team that should be really pulling that together and have the sixth sense or the pulse of the business. So I think everybody is doing this. If they're not, they're way behind already. And the world's changing quickly, right? And we need to be able to respond. So I just think it's a dynamic environment.
Got it. Alonso, your thoughts on Q1?
Well, yes, interesting because first of all, it starts with a strategic planning, which is a 3-5 year plan. We cannot be caught off guard anymore. But to the point of the Q1, I mean, is to take that long-term plan and continue doing a follow-up in a shorter period of time. And that's when Q1 comes in. For Q1, what we see a lot is the continued fluctuations in prices and costs. And that continue, especially in Q1, because it's usually when the companies take price action. And many of us did last year. And there's an interesting question in the chat, by the way, but the question now comes for Q1 2023, is this going to happen again? And we're all asking ourselves the same question, because do we need to take action with our customers, or can we? And are the vendors going to take action on us as well? And can we negotiate that? And can we negotiate terms? And can we negotiate how much we can translate this into customers, or not? How much do we have to absorb? So these are the parts that, in terms of planning and budgeting for Q1, is becoming very, I mean, it's always challenging, but this 2023 is even more so. Is kind of a post-COVID, is a different kind of a situation, with a little bit more back to normal, but with a pressure that we never have probably since the 80s. We haven't have that kind of pressure, this kind of environment at least in the US. Is a new situation, and the whole economy needs to adapt to that. By the same token, every company in their industry, they look for ways to protect themselves. And it's very important. I mean, I think Todd was talking about a lot about the going concern, but yes, at the end, that's it. I mean, it is, how do we stay on business? How do we still profitable? And what are we going to do? What is our strategy behind the inflationary situation that we're living?
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Alonso. Actually, this might be a good time to interject with a couple of questions that we have from the audience, because they're related to these questions. The first one is, and I'll let you, Alonso, start on the first one. How do we best deal with increasing sub-suppliers wanting to raise prices when our customers have contract price agreements in place for several years?
Well, yes, and the major problem is that you have to wait until that contract expires in order to negotiate terms, which is very difficult. For many companies, it depends again on what you do. Many times what you try is to come up with new products, or new segments, or new services, if that's your case, and introduce premium prices, and introduce a different. Well, you can also change your product mix. And also you can change your customer mix.
Mhm.
it's way more difficult. I mean, you wish you can just sell the same thing always to the same customers and just increase the price every January 1st, and
Right.
life will be very easy. But unfortunately, that's not easy. And if you have a contract, even if you, because I've been in companies in which you have a contract that is renewed maybe annually or maybe 2 years or maybe even 3 years, but you still have opportunity to catch up. You're always late because your suppliers are increasing faster to you. So then you need to kind of make it a little bit retroactive, which it makes a negotiation even harder. But it's possible to try to negotiate the retroactive price increase. I will definitely recommend that. But again, the time is against you. So
Right.
it requires you to do something a little more difficult even, that is introducing new products, try to increase reduce your costs, probably increase your price or maintain the same price, reduce your cost, whatever you do, but protect your margin as much as you can. And probably ended up changing your product mix. And I want to mention again, changing your customer mix sometimes is the best opportunity you have, because
Right.
it's again, I mean, you need to make sure as a CFO that you protect those margins and those profits in the long term.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Alonso. Todd, any thoughts on dealing with price increases from suppliers?
No, I have a saying that if you don't ask, the answer is always no.
No. Yeah.
And and I actually think that people are starting to expect it, right? Even whether it's with suppliers or even going from renewing of contracts and that type of thing, just because nobody wants to do it, but once again, friction creates motion, and I think you should always try to find the middle ground, right? Everyone's feeling it, so how do you try to make it a win-win? But I think if it's couched properly, I think you can have those conversations and potentially get increased pricing and make it work for everyone. I liken it to dealing with a 16-year-old, right? Don't do it because and say, I told you so. Try to explain what's happening, how it's impacting your business, and how it's in their best interest for you to remain, a going concern, and perhaps, that you're actually sharing in the cost of this and you're not just 100% passing it through. So a lot of it's in the delivery.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Todd. One thing I would like to add is we could also change your supplier mix. It might be a time to identify other suppliers and then use them to renegotiate agreements with existing suppliers or terminate those agreements with existing suppliers if you're not able to negotiate with them. I'll take the second question as well from the audience. So it's because it's related. Are CFOs looking to hedging currency related changes given the volatility of USD? Todd, you want to go first?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so hedging is a very expensive process and it's very difficult. Once you set up hedging, it's really hard to unwind it. And most companies have a natural hedge from a P&L perspective because it's not just the revenues, but the expenses that they're paying in those foreign countries, somewhat offset it depending on your business. And as you guys have all seen in the news, every company is talking about revenue adjusted for FX, right? And these are even the largest companies. So I would say definitely don't go into hedging as kind of a reaction to things that are happening short term. There's a certain scale by which it makes sense to hedge, but just know that once you start it, you're basically committing to it for a very long time. It's super complicated when you get into derivative transactions. Accounting's super complex. So I would say if you're going to do it, be very thoughtful, bring in outside advisors, and look at the pros and cons. And unless you're a pretty big company or have a massive amount of international exposure, my reflex reaction would be not to do it.
Not to do it. Yeah, I agree. Alonso, your thoughts on hedging?
Well, yes. I mean, our company actually moved a lot of, my previous company as well, move a lot of business to Mexico. And we have to hedge against that because of out of the sudden you have, a new problem. You have a lot of exposure because we're having a lot of production, a lot of expenses. In Mexico, the fluctuation of the peso also have an impact. And we have to hedge for that. In that case, I mean, and I was listening carefully to Todd, but in our case, I still think it makes definitely sense. it's tricky. You can gain or protect a lot, but you can also not do it very well. I will follow Todd advice on that. Yeah, look for advisors on this. It's something I never try by myself. I have talked to several banks on this, or there are other institutions that also offer this type of instrument, and be very conscious of what the objective you want to achieve. You're not really trying to make really money out of it. I mean, all you want to do is to hedge and to protect your budget. That's the ultimate objective. If you have a negative impact because of just the fluctuation of the peso, in my case,
Yep.
they have a way to offset that. But definitely don't go ambitious. Let's just say,
Right.
don't think in greedy terms in terms
Yep.
of hedging. That's definitely not the objective. Speculation, I don't even want to mention it.
Yep, got it. Yeah, hedging, I agree with both of you. It's pretty tricky and it can be very costly. It can go the other way around and it can be very, very costly. I'll give you one example. I used to work at United Airlines, and this was way back in 2008 when fuel prices were sky high. And at that time, Southwest had hedged fuel. United had not hedged fuel. It came to a point where United went and hedged fuel at higher prices, and then fuel prices went down. And unfortunately, the CFO had to resign. So it can be very detrimental as to the timing, and prediction can be very, very detrimental. All right, just keeping a time check. We have 20 more minutes for a few more questions. So we'll go to the next question, and I will go with Alonso on that one. It's a follow-up question. So it's more like, so what are the best practices for ensuring that proper tools are in place to predict, plan, and prepare for 23? Like, what are you using right now? What's in place from a tool standpoint?
Obvious. Well, before going into the tools, let's not forget in terms of resources, the people. The people is number one, obviously. Have the right people in the right positions, doing the right jobs, have it organized, trained, continuous communication, to improve the communication internally within the department and other departments, and perform one-on-ones with the team constantly. I mean, I'm talking about on a weekly basis, and maintain this type of environment in your own department is number one, of course. Nothing goes beyond that. But after that, I mean, yes. And I guess the question is proper tools. Well, many times he thinks about the ERP and other the systems that we use in terms to do analysis and things like that. Well, I mean, actually, currently I'm thinking about changing the ERP system for my company. So it's a very interesting question for me.
But that's a long-term thing, right?
But it's
Because
a
for
little bit more
23,
long term.
yeah.
Is you need to think about what it makes sense to you, and there's so many right now more than ever. I mean, every year increases a lot. I mean, there are more and more tools offered for organizations and things that you can do, analytics and whatnot. Think about what really makes sense and what really adds value for the cost to your company. And many of them criticize Excel, for example, and they use it like it's not the best practice and you can do it better this way. But in many cases, I mean, it's actually that Excel just is all you need. So you need to think about it and see how productive you are and how efficient you are and how it makes sense for your company, and just keep it like that. And maybe you can introduce other tools when it makes sense to you, but also think about not only in the realm of finance, but in the entire organization. I mean, it's an IRP could serve very well for finance, but it not be the best for production. And if you ask me, production is more important than finance as well. So I would say have all those things into consideration. Don't be too excited. I mean, sometimes even proper tools could be tools that your own bank offers. I mean, that will lead you a lot of efficiencies without going too far and without too much cost. So it's always think about what it makes sense to you or to your organization, and go for that.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Alonso. Todd, your perspective on that?
Yeah, I do think it's company specific and size specific and resource specific, right? Because if you're living on a shoestring and you're living to fight another day because of cash, then it's harder to make more of those investments. one of the things that always drives me crazy is throwing people at a problem. So, once again, people, process, and systems to drive scale and predictability. And I look at it as kind of three kind of key process. Every company has, and other ones have other, maybe a fourth process like manufacturing, but whether it's lead to cash, new product introduction and pricing, customer success, meaning everything you have after a customer, and trying to digitize those from a data perspective is the best as you scale, right? And once again, it's size dependent. But at Coupa, for example, we have adaptive planning. We have Tableau, which we use as kind of a database to pull data and look at trends. And then we also use Anaplan. So, we're pretty far along in trying to automate those three key business processes. But once again, as Alonzo said, I do think it is company specific and resources and just what you're able to do, because a lot of these things are investments that may take a longer time to pay off.
Right. Got it. Okay. Thank you, Todd. So Denise, we'll come back to you now. Your question is, how can organizations brace themselves for another year of the unknown? And are there any challenges that you're anticipating for 2023?
Richie, I'd love to answer this with along with the question from the audience that came, because I feel like they are tied together.
Sure.
I think one of the key things we want to think about is because at the beginning we talked about another year of unknown, and we emphasize we need to be bold, we need to innovate, we need to digitize, automate. I think underlying of all of this is, what can you do more with what you have that is going to give you a strategic advantage, a value add that also goes to being a leader in the organization rather than an operational cost. So the entire mindset needs to change. Instead of being seen as the one who's keeping the purse strings very tight, it needs to be, what is my strategic advantage? Where I can make a strategic impact to the organization. And I think that CFOs have a very unique advantage here. They see, because they see the entire organization, they are the first. They are among the first groups that will see where there's inefficiencies, where are opportunities of, opportunities of competitive advantage might be. It's a very unique, holistic view that the CFOs have. And if they look at things a little bit with, at the beginning, Alonso mentioned change, look at it differently. If you look at it differently to the entire organization, what the view you have is so unique that you can do more with what you have because you'll have a strategic point of view. I think the thought process needs to be, how am I going to add value, more than just how am I keep, the cost down. Keeping the cost down is very tactical. How am I going to value add? How can I do more with what I have? Is a more strategic concept. And on that one, where one of the things that we do, as well as our customers do, is how can I get more insights from the data that I already have? Can I help another group to give insights that they didn't think about, that would put us in a more of an advantage? And that's what we're seeing it. And again, we're in the business of providing machine learning solutions for transparent machine learning solutions for credit risk and fraud professionals. So, we're seeing that mindset also in our customers changing, and they're much more willing to do these types of understanding the data.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Denise. Todd, your thoughts on this one?
I mean, I'm actually kind of more responding to the question, how the CFO controller can take the lead. But,
yeah.
I think it's the rallying cry, right? It's like anything. I go back to the comment of, don't treat them like your 16-year-old and just say, because I said so. I think if you set the framework of, hey, here's where the business is, and you're being authentic about it, right? It's like, here's our current state, and here's how you fit into what we're trying to achieve. And you're doing the work, where the inefficiencies are, I need you to partner with me and drive out, cost, or I need to get efficiency higher. And by virtue of that, we can get either revenues higher or earnings higher. It's really a great time for CFOs to lead, right? Because it's the reason I became a CFO. I couldn't code to save my life, but you get to see the whole business, right? You interact with every single department.
Right.
So if you have that full picture and you can break it down into smaller pieces where everybody in the organization understands how they're contributing to create stakeholder value and what's necessary, then you're harnessing the whole company and you're building relationships. And I think the CFO is in the best purview in the whole company to make that happen. And for a lot of us, it's kind of unnatural because many of us are introverts, right? But hey, if you can get out there and talk to people and frame it, the power that you can harness and the results you can create are just immeasurable. So take it as an opportunity.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Todd. Alonso, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, but along the same lines. Yes, I think Todd was mentioning that CFOs have an opportunity that maybe other areas in the company is they don't have, because we are kind of the ones that put the whole team together. We see every little piece of the business, and we, without being experts on everything, at least we see the whole picture, and we can help them putting together.
Yep.
And on that regard, I think the strategy for a CFO is somebody just posted the question how the role is changing. I was thinking about that right now. Well, it's changing because in the past, CFOs did a little more finance. Is you do the audit, you do the taxes, you do the financial statements, and cash management, all the things that we do, and we still need to do it. I mean, we'll continue to do it forever. But what it has changed is our interaction with the team. The best way I have found to do this is to put the finance in kind of in the position to support the rest of the business, support your operations, support your marketing, your sales, in manufacturing, you have it, whatever it is, all the departments. I mean, you need to put in the position. Come on, like, how can I help you? How can I be your partner, your business partner, and do things better? Instead of trying, I mean, they forget about the old kind of traditional style and finance, that it was a little more kind of an authority, requesting information and providing guidance. You need to do this. Is a little more in terms of cooperation with the entire department. And when you do that in the company, it opens the doors for you to do communication, to do right dialogue, and start building a good professional relationship with all the other departments. That's when finance can take the lead. When it comes with that kind of a style, is when it can take the lead and help the whole organization to achieve their goals. But is definitely the role of the CFO has changed. Some people call it strategic CFO. I like to call it operational CFO. I like that a lot, but it's definitely a different perspective that the CFOs need to have. And we need to ask ourselves, how can we support the entire company, support all my other departments in order to together guide the company towards achieving their goals.
Cool. Thank you, Alonso. We'll take the other question as well from the audience because it's related. So do you recommend putting a hold on some of the capital advancements to defer funding to marketing and company promotion and visibility temporarily? Dennis, you want to go again with that one?
So I think that it depends. Again, I will echo the other panelists' conversation. It depends on the maturity of the company. It depends on which industry and what you're experiencing. From our perspective, this is a perfect time to invest in the products that we have. And that actually allows us more flexibility. And one of the things that we were discussing is that allowing, as your structure of with the inflation, as your supply chain issues happen and your vendors are increasing prices, and but your customers cannot, allowing, changing the product structure allows us to actually adapt faster. So we're looking at it more of a investing in both, not one over the other. Again, with that mindset, if you're looking at a situation where it's going to give you flexibility to innovate, it's going to give you flexibility to adjust to the environment, changing environment. I would, that capital investment is well worth it, because the future is not going to be more clear as time passes.
Got it. Okay.
It's going to continue.
Right. Got it. Okay. Thanks, Denise. Todd, your thoughts on putting hold on capital investments, or you would just depending on the criticality? How do you view this?
It is company dependent, obviously, as Denise was saying. It's our jobs as stewards of financial capital and capital allocation is, what's going to create the most long-term shareholder / stakeholder value. And every company, that's going to be different. The one thing I will say, though, in talking to whether it was 50 CEOs at this event, the 3 boards I sit on, et cetera, everybody is looking at, pausing, right? I mean, it can be as people are going to cut 30% of their headcount. Some have frozen hiring, some are pulling it way back. And that's uniform. There's very few companies I know that are full throttle. Even some of the very fast growth software companies, I'm a software background, are pulling back. So I think everybody sees there's uncertainty with the macro and, kind of going back to the questions of contingency planning and that type of thing. So I always think it's dangerous to say, stop, do this, but I think you should have your frameworks as to, where to invest capital. Or I think in today's climate, more people are looking at, hey, if I had to cut a few dollars of spend, where would I cut it from, and still optimize long-term shareholder value, but definitely company dependent.
Got it. Okay. We'll continue with you, Todd. I know we have a time check as well. So let's continue with you, Todd. The next question is for you. What are your main goals in Q1, and what roadmap or strategies that are in place to achieve that?
Yeah, it's just kind of a culmination of this conversation in many ways, right? I think it's all about agility. There's so many unknown factors, and things can change on a dime, right? The inflation report came out this morning. It's lower. Stock market rips. It comes back. And if the Fed stops, maybe people open up their purse strings. So there's so many different outcomes that could happen next year. It could get worse, right? There could be a black swan event, et cetera. So I think it's agility. It's the scenario planning, and it's having the levers, right? And having knowledge and being proactive of, okay, if things get better, we'll do this. If it gets worse, we're going to go to plan B. And, we touched on this a little bit earlier, but when you're doing your budgeting process, I think it's really important to do continuous budgeting, right? Yeah, you might have an annual plan, but you need to have a mechanism by which, at least at Coupa, for example, it's every quarter, right? We relook at it. Yeah, we have an annual plan, but if things are going well, we'll push harder, maybe in go-to-market or engineering. If it's not, you might pull back in a few areas. So once again, I think it's all about agility and being proactive versus reactive.
Got it. Okay. Alonso, your thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I think thinking about it is cash management has become more important than ever. I think I found myself now and in Q1 for next year, micromanaging the cash more than ever before. And it's all related to all the situation that we have right now, inflationary. Somebody just asked about how you deal with their transportation costs. Just made me more worried about it once again. But I think it's micromanaging cash, I would say, is one of the things that are becoming more and more important, at least for the time being. And it refers to how you manage terms with your providers. That's extremely important. How you control, the price increases that they do, transportation and whatnot. Raw materials is huge as well. And how do you translate that into your customers? And the other part of the equation is how do you manage that with your bank partners? It could be, it's maybe you want to switch banks. Maybe you want to pursue a new deal with the current bank, or maybe you want to renegotiate. If you have debt, maybe you want to renegotiate debt. Maybe this is the time in which you need cash is always king, but now more than ever because of the unknown, the inflationary situation, and many factors. I mean, every year, every 3 months, we have a new surprise. There's a new war, or there's a new disruption, or something is happening in the world. More than ever, we need to be very proactive with how we manage cash, how we protect the company, how we kind of predict things that could go bad, and how we can hedge for it. So I would say to add something to that, the answer is yes. I think the micromanaging cash, or at least for the time being, has become
critical.
extremely important.
Got it. Denise, your thoughts on it? Main goals for Q1 and roadmap and strategies to achieve?
Agility. Agility
Okay.
is really, really, really important for us to be able to adjust, move quickly. To Alonso's point, cash management, absolutely. But looking at it a little bit differently, and not just pure cost savings, but it is where when we spend the cash, will it give us the agility, adaptability to respond to what we're dealing with, or the unknowns. And something else that Todd mentioned that I'm going to add to, we are talking about being proactive. We review our risks and look at our budgeting process almost monthly.
Wow, okay.
Just because the response that we have to provide, we're a smaller company, we're a fintech, so we need to be on top of these things. So we do that on a monthly basis so that we can immediately adjust as changes happen.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Denise. There's a question. Why don't we take that one? So let's go with Todd again, and we'll go round robin based on my screen here. So Todd, do you think we should modify the CFO job description? I think it is.
I mean, what Alonso said is, I actually have written articles on this. It's the CFO is the new COO, right? And the day of the CFO just being the technical guy, it's over, right? And literally every CFO candidate I talk to, I ask the question: if you had an incremental dollar to invest, where do you put it? And if they start, some people, go right down the rat hole of, like, oh, well, the new lease account, whatever. It's like, oh my God, my head wants to explode. But no, it needs to be an operational person. I think it does need to be somebody who can get the rallying cry and motivate the organization. It's very atypical, right? People think of us CFOs as like total nerds in the corner of our office crunching spreadsheets, right? And maybe that's the way it used to be, but no, it definitely needs to be operational. And I do think the job descriptions changed. And the article I wrote just said the depth of the CFO is being a little bit extreme, but saying the COO is the new CFO. So I have 100%. That's what I look for. So, and
okay, cool. I think it'll be great if you can share the article with everyone. Maybe the Argyle forum can help us with that. Alonso, since you triggered this topic, I'll take it to you.
Yes, and I think it's very important to understand that because Todd he was mentioning, I mean, like the traditional style and also the traditional personality of the CFO is a little more behind an office, and how do you break through? How do you go and establish those channels of communication with the organization? In my opinion, I a big kind of a defendant or kind of a follower of the servant leadership style, because I have tried different styles. This is the one that works the best. And the reason it works the best is because you put yourself in the position to help other people. And when you do that into the organization and they perceive you as that, what I see is that other people open up to you as well. And they don't see you as a threat or the finance guy who's coming to cut my budget, but they see you as a partner that is going to help you achieve your goals. Once they have that perception of you, everything changes. And now is the time when finance can start influencing other people. That's where you want to go. And obviously influencing in a good way, because what you're going to influence is to help them achieve the goals that are aligned to the goals of the organization. And so I think that's why, yeah, I mean, you can call it operational CFO or strategic or the new CEO, but I think it's more and more, I mean, all companies, and I've seen this as well in many forums as well, that more and more companies, they're all, when they're looking for CFOs, the one unique characteristic they're all asking about is for a person who can be a real leader for the organization, more than just a leader for the finance department.
Yep,
And funny enough, if I might say it, is that in many cases, I have seen that they complain, maybe it's the recruiter who tells you the story, or maybe it's the CEO or somebody else. But most times than not, the complaints, my current CFO or my previous CFO didn't have that style. It was just more into finance, it were more like sending mandatory emails and more into in his or her office, but not playing an active role as a leader of the organization and with the operations or whatever you do. So, and all the companies are pursuing that right now. So we see a dramatic change. I mean, the world of business is asking us to change and to be a different type of CFOs and leaders. So definitely we better change that job description and align to that.
Got it. Cool. Thank you, Alonso. We'll take one more question. We've got 4 minutes left, and maybe we'll give that to Denise. So how do you develop a more nimble mindset in the organization, Denise? What are your thoughts?
I think it starts with having the common goal. If everybody's going for, swimming towards the same finish line, it's much easier to organize together. The other thing is, especially we see it in our organization as well, because we are remote, we're totally remote and globally distributed. We ensure that, and this is going to tie to something Alonso said, we ensure every discussion that is critical for our organization is done in a multidisciplinary way. Now we have the ability to do so because we're smaller, but it makes a very big difference when your finance team is sitting in with your sales as well as product team, because they now understand what are your levers, what are the key things that different disciplines cares about, and you can bring that in, and then afterwards you're a part of that conversation where you can make some suggestions, and that would move you faster. Definitely that cross-functionality has helped us significantly, and making decisions also speeds up that way.
Got it. Thank you, Denise. I agree. It's the common intent or a common goal can really help drive decision making much faster. Todd, your thoughts on developing a nimble organization? And we have 2 minutes left, so we'll end after those 2 minutes.
Sure. Yeah, I think having a common framework and common goals and communication are paramount. I also think it's culture, right? And that culture needs to be rooted throughout the organization, and the culture of empowering people who see things, right? Like I always tell my teams, like, if you see that we're doing something that's stupid and you're sitting at your desk, you need to tell us, right? And then so one of having the open culture of being able to tell people how things can be improved, and in the spirit of just making things better versus criticizing. And then 2, taking action, right? Actions speak louder than words. So I think if there's a culture that promotes agility and, leveraging, all of us is smarter than one of us, I think you start getting there. And then if you actually do it and people say, hey, well, I'm going to get rewarded for going out there, taking a chance, and the company is actually going to respond, then it feeds upon itself. If people come up with these ideas, or, you're not agile, then everyone just goes, oh, I'm never going to be able to affect change. And then you just get into a death spiral. So the only thing I would add is what Denise said, was that the culture and actions speak louder than words.
Got it. Okay. Thank you, Todd. With that, I think we are at the end of our session. Alonso, I would have loved to have your perspective, but we are literally seconds away from ending the session. So I will hand it back to Michael from Argyle. That's what I was
Thank you. And thank you, Todd, Denise, and Alonso so much. This was a wonderful panel discussion. And I also want to thank everyone else for joining us today for this fantastic session. Now, this session, along with all of today's content, will be available on demand following the event. Now, this officially concludes the Argyle CFO Summit, Lessons Learned in 2022. We'd like to thank our sponsors, Workiva, Appsin, HighRadius, TripActions, Coupa, Divi, and Vertex. Thank you again for joining us today and engaging in our content. Have a great rest of your day. Thank you, team.
Thank you. Thanks. Thank you, everyone.